Good morning, good evening, wherever it is, wherever you are. Uh, my name's Lawrence. I'm talking to you from Chiang Mai, Thailand, my home. Um, it's a hot, smoggy day in the city. It's a Sunday morning. Um, Through a series of events, I've been reminded by my higher power, God, as I don't understand Him. I say Him, could be it, a force, whatever. Sufficient to say is I'm a believer, but it's a big tent. I don't care who believes what. You're a Jew, you're okay with me. Catholic, Protestant, Hindu, Buddhist. Who'd I left out? You're all okay with me. And the atheists are okay with me. In fact, the atheists have probably got more evidence on their side than anybody. So, respect. Atheists, respect. Anyway, years ago, I made a deal with God about I would pass on a vision that I had. And this vision came after I had gone through a period of great personal grief and turmoil in my life. I had lost my marriage. I was living in a cheap room in the U District of Seattle. All I had was a little black dog and a bunch of notebooks and some port wine, which I drank in the morning and wrote all this pitiful crap in my little pitiful journals about how life was so terrible now for me, and I didn't know what to do. And I got rid of those journals a long time ago. It was just too painful to read all that self-pitying garbage. I'm going to skip a lot of detail here, but during that period, I got a visit from, I'll call him Dave Hartley, who was the brother of my dear friend Dan Hartley that I knew from high school. Dan Hartley was a wonderful young man. He was one of these guys that was so crafty. He built this huge guitar by hand. He made a camper van that was like, if you had it today, you could probably sell it for umpteen. Everything he touched, he was just so crafty, and he was so smart, and he was a songwriter and a singer, and he just did all these great things. But he was also a hardcore atheist, did not believe in God, and went out of his way to insult God. I'm not saying that had a bearing on what happened to him later, but I remember one night he sing, "Oh, God can strike me down now. Come on, God, come on." And taunting this God. Well, he didn't get struck down, so he thought this was some kind of a triumph, I guess. But later on, he was bouncing around the West Coast taking all these menial jobs. He was a draft dodger, and he couldn't get into Canada, I guess. And he was living in the Bay Area, and one night he just had had enough. He took a rear window out of his Volkswagen van and cut a plywood replacement with a hole in it. You know where this is going. The hole to fit the hose, to fit the exhaust. And after writing this long note about what to do with his personal effects, he climbed in, turned the engine on, drank some wine, passed out, and passed out of this world. Now, I didn't hear this till months later, and I didn't know why he did it. I found out later it was because of some love affair gone bad. a great loss for the world, a real great loss for the world. As for my personal despair, I lived through it. I was too afraid to kill myself, really. Within 6 months, my whole life had turned around. I don't know what to attribute it to. I started reading spiritual material. I started praying again. And I met a wonderful lady. We ended up getting married. I mean, my life was 1,000% different within 6 months from that depth of despair. I can't even describe it. It was such a wonderful change. Now, there's been times since then when I've been in that trough of despair again, but never quite so deep. I had more tools to work with. Personally, I think if you go through a whole long life and you haven't considered suicide ever, well, you're either a very lucky person or you're a very shallow person. I'll go that far. If you haven't considered taking your own life. I shouldn't say that. What kind of thing is that to say? But all of us deep thinkers, I think we've thought about it, at least. But I'm glad it didn't happen. But shortly after this visit from David Hartley, I had a vision. I guess it came in the form of a dream, but it was a vision in which I'm walking down the street, some lonely street somewhere, and who should appear but Mr. Dan Hartley, the deceased. He walked up to me and we hugged, I guess, and I said, "You stupid bastard, why did you do that? Why?" And he gave me that grin that he had. Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time, he said, but it turned out to be wrong, and now I'm working it off. Working it off? What do you mean you're working it off? How does that work? Well, I had to go before this committee, and they were grilling me about all the reasons why I would do such a thing, and I told them, and I guess my reasons were not sufficient. And they told me that I'm working for them now. And I said, "Well, what do I got to do?" And they said, "You have to go around and talk to everybody you know and everybody we know that we're going to give you a long list of who's considering taking their own life, and you're going to tell them with great force what a bad idea this is and that they will not get away with it. They will pay just like you're going to pay." Wow. So he says, "And you were on the list. You were near the top." Well, okay. And after that, the vision kind of faded out. But there was an appendix or an addition to this sometime soon thereafter, in which I found myself in a small, grubby, windowless room in what looked like a third world police station, maybe, and this old beat-up desk and a file cabinet, and I'm sitting at this desk, and this old nasty-looking guy walks in. If you ever saw that movie, In the Name of the Father, he looked like one of those grubby English cops with a cheap suit, 3 days growth on, smoking a cigarette, just a real down character. He walks in the room, kind of glances at me, and walks to the file cabinet, roots through there and pulls out this big, fat, dirty-looking manila folder and plops it on the desk. And he still doesn't acknowledge my presence at all, and he's looking through it, and every once in a while he goes, "Oh shit, look at this," and still saying nothing to me. And finally he flops the thing shut and he says, "Well, killed yourself, did you?" I said, "Yeah, I guess I did." He says, "Well, You're going to pay now. And I said, well, what do you mean pay? And he offered me the same deal that he did, that they had offered Hartley, excuse me, that I was to go around by whatever means necessary and tell people that if you take your own life, you will not get away with it. The committee doesn't like it. Apparently, see, I got this picture. I didn't see it, but I had this strong feeling that there was a vast bureaucracy on the other side of this life. And it's bigger than anything. It's like a combination of the phone company, IBM, Boeing, the federal government, every bureaucracy you can think of. It's bigger than all that. And you don't just go over there and you're floating around on a belladonna cloud. You got work to do. They will assign you a job. Just like here. You have to work. And my job was just going to be just like Hartley, going around and telling people what a crappy idea it was, and don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to pay. Try to straighten out your life wherever it is, however it is, go from there. And so, in the course of my life, my real life without any visions attached to it, I have personally known at least 12 or 13 people who have taken their lives. And at least in 4 of the cases, I could see no justification for it whatsoever. One of these guys, a good friend of mine, had a guaranteed annual trust fund income, tax-free, $50,000 a year, and this is in 1968. Can you imagine? I was so jealous of this guy. My wife and I were scrimping and just getting by. This guy and his wife, I'll give you one small example. He loved his wife, he doted on his wife, he loved her so much. And he knew I was interested, I was in photography, and I had, the only possession I had that was worth a damn was a Leica camera. And she got interested in it too, his wife did. And damned if he didn't go out and buy a brand new Leica M4, all the accessories, all the lenses from the 28 millimeter hard to find wide angle up to the 135 millimeter tele, and just presented it to her. She had never had an Instamatic in her hands. That's how much he loved her and thought stuff would cure his condition, I guess. Well, later on he killed himself because the two of them apparently weren't getting along. I've known several people, and every one of these cases I failed to see justification for what they did. Oh, that was one of the things this cop told me. He said, we do not accept any excuses for doing this. If you have a condition like Lou Gehrig's disease, that might be acceptable. But it's a catch-22, because if you got that, you're incapable of the physical action it would take to do yourself in. You can't even grab a bottle of pills, and you can't do it. You're powerless. So really, in their mind, there's no justification. They really don't cut you any slack for doing this. And I got the strong feeling that as long as I'm alive, I have to go tell people this. And I have told people. I have many times. And the story has been received with mixed results. Some people say, oh, great story, man, you ought to write that up. And I have tried to write it up. It never comes out right. I consider myself a fairly decent, mediocre but decent writer. I can get my point across. People seem to like what I write, but this one has just eluded me. And I thought, well, maybe I could go make a video and reach a few people. I know there's people out there right now that are considering this rash, wrong move. And if I can reach just one of them somehow, this would have been worth it. And of course, I'll never know if it ever did do any good, but like I said before, did I say this? I have cancer, stage 4. I'm definitely on my way down. I feel okay right now, and people tell me I look okay, but my doctors tell me I'm terminal, which I accept. You know, I don't like the idea, but I've had a good, long, great life, just a great life. I've missed nothing. I feel like I just had a wonderful, great life. So, but then I wonder, why am I not dead right now? And the idea I get is, I got this one, there's still a couple things left on the to-do list, which I've never even done those, but if I had a to-do list, I would say this right here, what I'm doing, would be on it. Try to spread the word. Suicide is a crappy idea. I won't even bother telling you what a hole you leave behind, and how your family and friends, and you've got one, they're never going to get over it. They're always going to be wondering, what could I have done? What could I have said? And it leaves a hole. You're important. You matter. People love you. I don't care who you are. You know, how bad you've screwed up in this life. You're leaving this life, taking your own life, leaves a big hole. And don't do it. Do not do it. You will pay. I guarantee you will pay. So I'm doing this to cancel, well, not cancel, but to, because my higher power told me to do it. That's it. So I try to do what's required of me to do, and this is it. I leave this world knowing that I've done my best, my mediocre best. I could have done a lot better a lot of times for a lot of people, but I did the best I could do at the time, like I'm doing right now. I have loved my life. I have known love in my life, and I know I'm filled with gratitude for everything I have received, from starting with absolutely nothing and going out with nothing. I have divested myself of all the stuff. I'm done. I'm ready whenever it's time to go. I got my traveling shoes. And I'll go so far as to say, I don't want to infuriate the atheists, but God bless each and every one of us and all of you. And I hope this reaches anyone who's thinking about making that kind of a move. Please, don't do it. Live through it. It will pass. This will pass. Your life will change. You know, just try to think your way, live your way through this. Talk to people. Just don't do it. Please don't do it. I love you. God loves you. And I can say no more. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And good night.